Morning guys, today is round 3 of the Croatian Team Championship and it's pretty early here. I woke up already at 7:30, so I didn't sleep that well tonight. Only slept like 7 hours. I don't know why, but yeah, I just went to breakfast and I'll start preparing soon now. Anyway, I have a lot of time now. I'm playing against Yuriy Kryvoruchko today, who's been a 2700 player for quite some time. Now his rating dropped to I think 2630 or something, but yeah, still a very strong opponent. He's very solid with black. I have the white pieces today, so I will try to find some idea. But I still want to play pretty safe today, not to risk anything unnecessarily, because I do feel a bit tired now, and yeah, no need to take some unnecessary risk, I think. So yeah, I'll see you guys later. Just another quick update before the game. It's now 2:30, so the game starts in half an hour. I went into the city now just to get some coffee because I felt pretty tired. I had now two double espressos, and now it's better. But yeah, sleep is an important role during tournaments, and unfortunately today didn't. The sleep wasn't that great, but still, there are no excuses. I still have to play the game. So let's see how it turns out. I'm gonna play e4 today. I decided on that. And usually my opponent plays pretty solid. He most likely will go for the Berlin. But yeah, he could also go for the Sicilian technically. So I'll just review a couple of more lines now, and I'll see you after the game. So welcome guys to the recap. I played a really long game and unfortunately it ended in a draw. I was winning throughout basically the whole game, and in the end I blundered and threw away the win, which is very unfortunate. But I played a really good game except for the one move, I think, which I just totally did not see the win, and yeah, it happens. But yeah, hopefully tomorrow will be better. Still, a draw of course is a good result against Kryvoruchko. But of course there was more in the game. But yeah, nothing to do now, and let's have a look at the game. So I went e4, and he surprised me a bit by going for the Sicilian. As I think I've mentioned, I mostly expected him to go e5, and just to stick with his solid repertoire, because also in a team competition like this, I felt like it would make sense if you have the black pieces. Just to stay solid. But he went for the Sicilian, and I briefly checked the Rossolimo with e6. And here I was thinking for a bit, because I thought about both lines with short castle being the main line and bishop c6, which I then ended up playing, because I briefly checked this line with b3. And I had some ideas there, but I wasn't very deep, so that's why I was thinking if I really want to enter this or go to short castle, which is more solid and which I've also played in the past. But I decided to go to this line, and it was actually funny because the board next to me, Movsesian against Novak Kabakapa, it was this line with d3. So my teammate had the black pieces and Movsesian had white, and he played d3 here. But b3 is a similar line, but there are some differences. White just wants to develop the bishop to b2 in most cases. And the idea is always, basically, in most cases, if black is threatening to go e5, then white has to do something concrete. For example, so my opponent played f6, but for example, if d6, there's e5, and there's some concrete theory here. I think d5, knight e5, and queen d4 here is not working. I think there is knight c4, and I think the queen on a1 is trapped here with knight c3. I think, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, this is the line. So yeah, this is the line. I think queen g5 is the best move, and then knight g4, and yeah, there is some theory here which I also did not really recall, but he didn't go for this. He went f6 instead. And now black is actually intending to go knight h6, knight f7. So therefore I played d3, I still knew this. Now he played knight e7, since knight h6 is not possible anymore. And now knight h4. So my idea is to firstly stop knight g6, because now if black would go knight g6, I have queen h5, and yeah, he's just losing material. And yeah, he also cannot go g5, at least not right away, because I have queen h5 check, and he has to block it, and I'm just winning the knight. So he went for g6, which is, I think, a bit dubious. The line I recalled, which I briefly prepared, was e5, when there are some crazy lines after f4, e takes f4, bishop takes f4, d5 was the line, and now let me think. I think it was short castle here.
g5, and I would have went for the repetition right away, I think. White can repeat here, but white can also play on, but I also did not remember how. It was bishop d2 here, and it somehow ends in a draw, but it's extremely complex. So this is one thing. Also during the game, while I calculated this, I was thinking what happens after d takes e4. Let me just check. I intended to play knight d2, and e takes d3, I intended to play knight c4, which seems like it's the best way, and it's also around equal. So I should have checked this as well, but it looks a bit dangerous for black with the king still being on e8. So yeah, he went g6 because he also told me that he wasn't very much familiar, or at least he couldn't recall these lines. And so he just went for g6. Also during the game, I thought about d5, and I was somehow thinking that I checked something like this, but apparently castle is not the right move because of takes, and queen d4. Because I did recall something that I checked with g5, and some line like this when queen e8 exchanges the queens, and then somehow it's around equal. But it looks like castle was not the move. Maybe it was knight c3. Okay, I'll need to check this later on. Anyway, my opponent went g6, and he simply wants to develop here on the king side with bishop g7. Now f4. I think quite logical. I simply want to, again, somewhat disrupt his development and not allow him to play e5. At least not right away. Castle, and now I went knight d2. I still would like to check. Yeah, knight d2 is a good move. Because later on, now he played e5, and then I was thinking maybe I should have gone back with knight f3 right away. But yeah, the knight is actually well placed on f3, and here also black has some ideas. Maybe with some queen c7, I have to play g3. So yeah, knight d2 was good. Also the idea, I have no idea if this is right, but after castle, I thought he might have some ideas to play here on the king side with h6 and then g5. Very unusual position. But yeah, h6 is actually not so bad, and I thought that this is at least practically not so clear now. I see that the computer here gives queen g4 when apparently there's a big advantage, but the lines are pretty crazy. d6, e5 I have to play, and apparently 0.8, but quite hard to understand here. So I went knight d2. The point is, if he wants to go for this h6 g5 now I'm not castled, so here I thought I can play queen e2. g5 takes, and now knight f3, and I will castle kingside, and then we'll go h4 when all these lines will open up. So this was my main point. So he went e5 here, which surprised me a bit, but in hindsight, it's kind of like the only logical way to proceed, because always when he goes d5, I don't even have to do anything. At some point, I could go e5, but for the moment, I could do something like queen e2 or short castle. And black always has this issue with the double pawns, and also the bishop on c8 simply it doesn't do anything at all. Once the position opens up, then the bishop pair can prove pretty useful, but it's very hard for black to achieve that. So we went e5, takes, and now knight f3. And after d6 now I think is an important moment. I went queen e2, which I think is very strong. Here is such an instructive moment during the game, because you could think that short castle is very logical. But this kind of shifts the game already in a different direction here. During the game, I thought h6, and then black will prepare g5, knight g6, and it's actually not so easy for white to find a plan here. Because, he does have this bad pawn structure here, but I don't have any pawn breaks, or at least they're all too slow. Like knight c4, for example, g5, and I really didn't like my position here, actually, because knight g6 is coming, maybe knight f4, maybe g4, and black will have some attacking chances there. So therefore I went queen e2, and the idea is just that I will castle long when black doesn't have any attack on the queen side at all because of his double pawns, and I might have some attacking chances on the king side. And here he surprised me very much by going queen a5, which is a very interesting idea. But during the game, I thought that he has to do something about the knight on e7. I thought that king h8 might be a smart way to play. With the idea that after long castle, now black can go knight g8 and then knight f6, and from there possibly knight h5 to f4. Or also one idea was, let me think, knight f6, knight e8, knight c7, knight e6, when the knight could jump to d4 or to f4. So this is what I was thinking probably would have been better than what he played in the game. He went queen a5, and his point was just that he wants to wants to stop me from castling queenside, but I simply go a4, and then again I'm intending to castle queenside on the next move when the queen doesn't do anything on a5. So probably here he should also just go back with the queen, admit his mistake, and after long castle, as I said, maybe here also something like king h8. And here it's actually also not so easy for white to make any progress. I could have some ideas with h4, but always when I go h4, black has bishop g4. And when I go h3 g4, then the square on f4 is also weakened. So I was also not sure how to proceed here. But my opponent played the shocking move c4, which didn't make any sense to me at all. Black is just giving a pawn, and now of course I somewhat damaged my pawn structure, but yeah, this was just a shocking decision by my very strong opponent. So I don't know what went wrong for him here, but yeah, after this, I'm already just close to winning already. I'm just a pawn up, and black doesn't have any compensation at all. I guess he was just worried on the long run that this position might be very bad for him if I castle long, but I don't see really the issue here. Like I'm better for sure here, but first of all, not much. I'm not any material up. So yeah, c4 was just like a panicking move, I think. I went d takes c4. B takes c4 I also briefly thought about, but it simply opens up the b line, which I don't want. And d takes c4, now c5, and now queen d3. Momentarily stopping knight c6 because I have queen d5 check, picking up the knight on c6. So he went back queen c7, defending the pawn on d6, short castle. And now he went h6. Computer is saying knight c6, which is a bit surprising because during the game I thought I can go queen d5 check here, king h8 and knight g5. But maybe I'm missing something. Oh, he can go bishop f6. And if knight e6, takes, knight d4 just. Why am I not winning material? Oh, he has this intermediate move. Because if he takes back right away, I simply take on f6, but he has rook e8 first. Queen d5, e d4, and black has some chances here to survive. Because my queen is a bit misplaced, my pawns are now, pawn on e4 is a bit weak. Okay, that's a very nice defense by the computer. But we both assume that after knight c6, queen d5, king h8, knight g5, it's more or less game over because knight f7 is coming. But bishop f6, I guess we both missed. But he went h6 right away, and now this very instructive moment, knight b1, a very strong move, and my knight didn't do that much anymore on d2, so I'm just regrouping it to c3, where it can go to either b5 or to d5. Now he went knight d4, and here I'm already completely winning. I took c takes d4, knight d5, computer gives +3 here already. Queen d8, I took on f8 and c3, and yeah, even though I'm only a pawn up, black's pieces are just horrible. Bishop on f8 doesn't do anything at all. And yeah, my knight on d5 is fantastic, and I'm simply pushing the pawns now on the queen side. b4 was good, b5 was good as well, h5, and now c5. I was not so sure if I should go for this. At first, my idea was just to go a5 and then a6, which would have maybe been better from a practical point of view, but I thought that c5 is more or less winning concretely, therefore I went for this. And it's actually true, it is winning, but yeah, it was only at the end of the game when I almost managed to score the full point, and then I messed it up. So let's see. D takes c5, otherwise I'm pushing c6 when the game is just over. So he took bishop takes e5, bishop takes d5, and I took e takes d5. I also briefly thought about going to this endgame, and maybe this is actually easier. I just wasn't sure if bishop d7 takes, and rook c1, rook c8. I can just bring my king here. And I have rook e1. Okay, and then rook e6 is coming. Okay, interesting. Because king e3, king e5, yeah, this is already a draw. I missed rook e1 here. Yeah, maybe I should go to this endgame right away. I mean, I guess then it's quite easy. What if he goes rook d8? I go rook d1 and bishop d6. Again, just this endgame is completely winning. Yeah, I should have maybe gone for this. Instead, I went e takes d5, thinking that this is even harder for him to hold, with the queen still on the board. And here, at first, I wanted to go rook e1, which is maybe also the best move, in fact. But here, I spent too much time. I spent almost 10 minutes. I was on 13 minutes, and after the move, I was only in 4 minutes. So this brought me into quite severe time trouble. Queen g3 was still good, but rook e1 was the move I was thinking about. And here, what was my issue, actually? I don't quite recall. I just wanted to be super safe, not to put the rook on the e-file when there could be some pins, but I think this was my issue. Rook takes e5 and queen f6, and I wasn't sure. Queen e4, I thought rook f8 here. And rook e7 check. What if king h8? Again, this endgame is just completely winning. And king h6, queen e3 check. So the endgame is just completely winning. I kind of, yeah, did not evaluate this that correctly. Yeah, it's a pity. Rook e1 also completely winning. Queen g3 was fine too. Bishop e5, queen e5, c4. Queen d4 still. I mean, all of the moves were very good. And I thought that this endgame also has to be winning because now I'm at least bringing my king very fast, but at least now his pawn is a bit better on b6 than on a7. He went rook d8, rook d1, all good. c3, king e3, c2, rook c1, rook d5, rook c2. Rook d1, and here move 38, I was already on quite a low time, and I went for rook d2, which is already a step into the wrong direction. King e4 is probably quite logical, because now if rook a1, I simply have a much better version in the game. I'm just a tempo up. So maybe he can try something like just king h6. What is my plan? Just g3, king g5, and now rook c6. Rook a1, rook c4, and if rook d1 back, I'm just slowly winning, it seems. King e5, let's say he waits. And at some point, I'm just picking everything up here. And I will get a much better version. Yeah, maybe this was a bit hasty here, this rook d2. I saw this that this position will come. Also, I saw rook f4. This is the only move. Otherwise, I'm picking up the pawn on b6. Rook f6, king c7, king h6, and it is still winning. But here, I was actually not sure at all that it's still winning. It's I already had the feeling that I might have given away the win. I went h4 rather quickly, and after g5 here was the last critical moment. I went g3, and I kind of missed rook f3. But here already at g5, after g5, I felt that the position is probably a draw, and I kind of gave up already, which was a big mistake. Rook c2 here is winning. And the point is now, well, first, before I explain rook c2, I should explain rook d6 probably. Because this was the line I calculated first, but after rook d6, king d6, now we have this forced line here. Black picks up the pawn, let's say the king goes, probably doesn't matter. King goes here, king g3, b6, king g2, b7, h3. I was calculating until here, and with the pawn on h6 or h7 instead of h5, it would be winning for white, but with the pawn on h5, it's actually a draw. And also, if the pawn wouldn't be there, it's also a draw as well. So let me show you the idea. I will slowly bring the queen around. And yeah, this is like the position I want to reach. And now with the pawn on h5, I cannot go queen g4. If the pawn is on h6, let's just imagine the pawn is on h6. Black has to go, let's say king h1. And now I have this important idea, queen g3, and black is not in stalemate because he still has the moves, h4, queen f2, h3, and now queen f1 checkmate. So this is usually the idea if the pawn is on h7 or h6. But with the pawn on h5, it simply doesn't work because I don't have the check on g4 and my queen is not getting to g3. So this was the whole issue. And yeah, rook c2 I just totally missed. I did not see this at all. The idea is just to go rook c6 when black cannot take because I can take with the pawn and I'm just winning a lot of time. If hg5, just rook c6 now, king g6, and here I guess I'm a tempo up. Let me think. b6, king g3. Yeah, I'm just a tempo up and therefore I'm winning. This is winning because the pawn is still on h3. So rook c2, I think he can just resign here. I'm just seeing this now. There's just basically nothing he can do, it seems. Rook c6 is coming. If king g7, I can just take here. And I guess I can go here as well. Rook e2, rook h6, or anything, yeah. Rook h6, rook e5 is there. g3. This is not winning. Also winning. Yeah, that's just a pity, yeah. I mean, rook c2 is not that hard if you see it. But also, I had 26 minutes on the clock, and I just went g3 right away. I spent like 1.5 minutes, so this really shouldn't happen. I guess it was like a mental problem as well, because here I thought I should get the win much sooner as well, and yeah, I kind of gave up here, I have the feeling. But after rook c2, I don't see what he can do. I mean, he can basically resign here. So that's That's very unfortunate. I went g3 instead, and I thought I still have some chances, but rook f3 was a very strong move. I thought if he takes on h4, it's lost again. Because now his idea with rook f4, if king b6, I thought this is a draw. Rook h4, it will be, I think, similar to the game. But I thought I have rook h2, and if rook f6, now I have rook c2. And rook f4 now on the king, I thought king b6 is also winning. Rook c6 first, yeah. King goes back, now king b6, and now my rook is on the c file, which is extremely important because I'm blocking all the checks. And now I'm just simply promoting the pawn. So this was my whole idea, but then he played rook f3, and then I realized it's just a draw, because now I don't get the same, because he's threatening to take on g3, and if I go rook g2 now to protect the pawn, I guess he could also go back rook f6, but the easiest is just to take here and go rook h3, and then to pick up the pawn on h4. So I went king b6, rook g3, rook d6 check, but now it's simply a draw. I was still thought that I could try something here. I went king a6. My opponent said that king c6 might be possible to try, but now he has h4, b6, I guess h3, and it's also a draw, h2. And if I promote, then I'm even risking, because he's promoting with check. And if rook d1, he has rook g1. So yeah, this is also a draw. I went king a6, rook g1, b6, rook a1 check, king b5, h4, b7, h3. I cannot promote now because of rook b1 check. I went back, and now he always has this ideas also to give the rook. For example, if I go king c7, I think he could already take on b7 as well. King b7 and king g5, and it's just a draw. So rook h2, rook c1 check, king d7, and yeah, now he just has these drawing ideas. And yeah, rook c3 is the last important move to protect the pawn here. Yeah, there's always this idea, just to mention it, if rook b3, I would be winning because I have rook takes h3. Or I mean, here also be it queen, but this idea is very important also in some positions. So rook c1 check, king b8, rook c3, rook b7, the last try, king g5, king a7, and after rook c7 we went for the draw because he will just take on b7. Rook c7 is the last only move basically, otherwise I'm promoting, but after rook c7, if I move the king, he's just taking, and then at some point I will have to give the rook for the pawn, and therefore it's a draw. Yeah, I'm pretty upset, especially here. I mean, this just shouldn't happen. Just a mental state, I think. G3. Other than that, the game was really good. Now that I'm also seeing it, somehow I felt like I should have won earlier, but yeah, rook c2 is just, it's not hard at all. It's just a pity. Yeah, but yeah, nothing I can do. Tomorrow I'm playing against Hleb Dudin, who's a pretty good friend of mine as well. So let's see how that goes. I'll go and take some rest now. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's analysis, and yeah, I hope I'll be back in the next games, and see you tomorrow.